Hey everyone, welcome back to the Mission 300 podcast. We are going to do a little jump off of last week. Speaking of jump off, we're going to learn a little bit more about jumping off into a river that Tommy will explain later. But we're going to talk about one of our pillars, which is courage. So we have four pillars of our Mission 300 program is identity, strength, courage, and influence. And we're going to talk a little bit about courage and really what courage is and where it has the most power. And there was a little clip last week from Mark Dowdle that he had said of living in the middle, not living at the beginning, the excitement about taking on a race, and not at the end where you've actually accomplished something or you've actually won or you've actually just finished or you've completed your challenge. But that place in the middle where you have the tendency to make a choice. Do I want to keep going? What am I doing here? It's a very honest place. It's a very place of integrity. It's a place where no one really sees. But interesting, it is where all the stories are made. When you watch a movie, when you watch an event, when you watch any kind of like epic type story, it's that place in the middle where someone makes a choice to do something different and the outcome and how they have to live with that. And so I want to hit a little bit today about building on our concept of courage from the place that no one sees, not the place of grandeur, not the place of big events, not the place of big accomplishments that seem courageous, but the place that no one sees. So we're going to talk about that today with courage. And I'm going to have Caleb kind of kick off and kind of explain something that Mark had said on his, for those who haven't listened to the last podcast from Mark Dowdle that we had on, he had mentioned his thoughts of last year's Arrowhead 135 race. And I'm going to use this idea to kind of build for the rest of this podcast. Caleb.
Yeah, so I think the clip is up on a short on our YouTube, so we'll probably link it below or something if you want to check it out. But basically, to summarize what he says something along the lines of, I love living in the middle. That's where it's the hardest. That's where I find the truth. And he kind of encourages people to, because he says he has had people tell him, oh, I can't believe you went and did that. And his thought back is, I just wish you would go try. Like, just go try. Just go for it and go and see what happens. And even hearing Mark talk about Arrowhead 135 last year race he did, it was like in the middle of that race that he was humbled and he had to reckon with the truth of who he was and what he was doing there. And kind of like he said in the past, and I think he says it a lot of times, it kind of tore away all these masks that he thought about himself and revealed the truth. And there was even a moment, and I'm sure we'll talk about it more, where he called Lucy, his wife, kind of like, Lucy, I want to quit. I don't want to do this anymore. This is tough. And I mean, I personally can relate to that in things I've done where I call my dad and I'm like, count me out. And he's like, oh, you got to keep going because nobody's coming to save you. Nobody's coming to get you out of it. And that was kind of Lucy's response as well, was like, you have to. It was just simply that. And so it's been really interesting getting connected with Mark in the last month, talking to him more. And you can see that is like how he lives his life is in the middle of it all. Cause he's constantly like, you don't see it on his social media, but knowing him, he's running like 10 miles a day. In February, he's doing the Calendar Club, which is running, I mean, that last I heard, he's running the mile of the day of the month it is. So when he hits February 26th, he's going to run 26 miles. And when he hits February 27th, he's going to hit 27 miles. So back-to-back marathons. And I mean, most people, including myself, can't even imagine running a marathon. Now go and do it again the next following days into what's technically an ultra marathon. So just talking to him, like, it's been like watching somebody who really does live in the middle. Like, it's not just like he's talking about it, he's actually doing it. So,
and Tommy, I'm going to have you share a little bit about your amazing weekend run and plunge that you did. And for those that are listening that aren't into running, This isn't really a running channel, but there's just so many fundamentals that learn and that we can learn from. And coming back to this courage point, your actions and choices in that place where you're in between your start and your end is really, it's courageous because it's not just about you moving forward. There's actually a silent watching of you, that action is going to affect the lives of other people. It's going to affect the motivations of other people. It's going to inspire different people. That choice that you make in the middle, even though you don't know that at this point, just like with Mark and his wife, or just in life, like Tommy, when you first started selling, like you were excited, you were jazzed to get your new job. Like there was a psych up to get your new job. Then when you're in the middle of it and you're like calling and the work and the no's, no, 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 I'm sure there was a point going, did I make a good choice here? Right? There's this place that you hit that it strips you of all that energy. And you're like, what did I do? What just happened? That's the middle. So whether you're in life, whether you're raising kids, there's a place in the middle with kids when you're raising them. Tommy, you're at the beginning. It's going to be super exciting. Everybody's going to be gloating over it. But just wait till week after week. It's like, man, can I get a babysitter? No one wants to babysit anymore. They're super excited at the beginning, but then it just kind of like it starts waning, and then you have to deal with life. Then they become teenagers. There's places in life that become the middle. And this is where courage takes place. These are the choices that aren't, there's no rah rah, there's no emotion, there's no endorphin that takes place. It is a choice. And what we build, and it starts in these little building blocks, which is why we do the habit. So, Tommy, I'm going to have you kind of take us into a little fun moment. But what was your middle like with this crazy run and plunge that you did?
Yeah, so this last Saturday I was able to join in on the run and plunge with Mark. Mark has gathered just an awesome group of people, and it's it was just so much fun to be a part of a group that we're running. You what you do is you carry the pickaxe and the shovel, and you're going to put a hole in the river and through the ice and plunge in and then run back. And I mean, I think the middle for me started the night before. I was like, why did I sign up for this? Like, this is just absolutely not what I want to do tomorrow morning. And, sure enough, we just show up, and it's just so funny at the beginning of like anything exciting, like that adrenaline of like, oh, it just like gets you going. You're feeling good. You're running with other people. It's like, oh, I'm running fast, like 2.5 miles. This is nothing. And then you stop. You're at the river. It's taking a while to get a hole in the river. Your sweat starts to cool off a little bit. You're getting a little cold, and then it's like, oh, are you gonna jump in? Are you not gonna jump in? I could hide in the crowd and not jump in, but then I didn't really get the full experience, and so I actually jumped in pretty early on, and then had to wait for everyone else to go. I mean, there's like 30 to 40 people there, and I jump in, hang out for a little bit. Is the coldest water I've ever experienced. And then you have to kind of sit around and wait until everyone's ready to go back. And then it just starts moving. And it was difficult there in the middle, like in the actual middle. Like I'm in between, right? I'm 2.5 miles back to the place where we were gonna end, 2.5 miles from where we started, and you have to make the decision. Are you gonna plunge and go back? Or are you stopping here? Are you not gonna plunge? But the hard part for me wasn't making the decision to plunge in because there's enough peer pressure that you're going in. It's now on the way back when people are not running together because it's cold. You're cold. You want to get back, and people's pace start to quicken up. Slow people going slow, and now you're running alone. And that's a completely different place from where you started. And that's, for me, when all the voices started kicking in, like, dude, you're not good enough for this. Like, what were you thinking? Like, why'd you wear your shoes in the water? Like, you dummy, like, you don't know what you're doing. Like, it's too cold. Like, everything just comes at you, and it's like, oh, okay, no one's here. I can walk. Oh, but you're gonna walk? Oh, maybe you should just, get an Uber back, or maybe you should just, you know, it's like all these things that start to add up, and it's not necessarily in the middle, but it's like the middle of the fight. Like, everything else carried it in until it was in the middle, and I just think it was such a real world example of this courage to not quit. Like, it's like every step after I got into that water, it was courage, that next step that kept going. And it was friends. Like, there was friends there, but they had their own fight that they're going with, and they had to keep moving. They're not going to stop and wait for you. Like, they want to get back to the warm saunas and get back in their cars and go home. And so it truly is a fight. And I think that's the run and plunge is just a great example of it, but it happens in everything. Like, it happens when you're building something new. It happened for me in sales when I started off in my career, exactly like you were saying, Brian. It's like there's this energy and excitement to something new. Now try being 4 years in. That phone, although it's easier because you have more experience and you're better, but it's a lot heavier than it was at the beginning because there's excitement. It's something new. It's now the routine. It's now the thing that you have to do to keep pushing forward, right? To get to that new exciting thing. Not to say that like everything is just like boring and not fun and you just need to put your head down and do. There will be new exciting things to come. But those things come by doing those daily things in and out. Like training for the Tough Mudder coming up. It's like I'm trying to run a mile a day. At day 15 in the month, when I've ran 15 miles back to back to back, it's like you can miss one day. Oh, you can take it easy. Like you've already done 15. But that's when you need to put more gas on, and you need that courage to keep going, to keep pushing through. And I'm sure Caleb and Brian, you have many more examples, but I just think of so many like in soccer too, like that last like 20 minutes of the game, like you're tired and you got to keep pushing through. And that's when all like mistakes start happening, things start going awry, your mind starts going other places. It's at that moment when you need to really dial it in.
Tommy,
It's
this is really it's interesting that how you brought that comparison of boredom, almost the routine. It takes courage to do the routine that's actually necessary to do the other. And to your point, because I've been doing that mile a day running, I'll be honest, I took 2 days off for a weekend and deliberate, like I planned it. I'm going to take 2 days off and then I'll get going. Well, I walked the next time and then I walked again. I'm like, man, that run. I didn't want to go back and do the run. And I know people are listening going, what does this have to do with running in life? I don't even like to run. I do other things. This is about the routines that you start. And once they get boring, once they get monotonous, that's where the courage is to stay at it in those places because that's what makes the difference. It is the absolute difference. It is not about like if you're picking up the phone, you always want to be better at picking up the phone. What you don't want to do is let monotony just drive your monotony. Like you still want to improve, you still want to gain it, but you need to draw on the energy and to do that job as well as when you first started. That's the deep courage. You do that long enough, you build mindsets, you build resilience, you build these characteristics about yourself that are unstoppable. It really is the building blocks to being unstoppable. We've done this with making your bed because we do it for all our guys, even in Thailand. We even if they're up and live in the villages or wherever they're at, in the city or in the villages. first thing I do is make their bed. And we were going to get rid of it because it's like, okay, does this have the same value to ties as it does to what we're doing? And uh, it so does. When you make your bed and you walk in your room and the day you don't make it, something feels wrong. It just feels wrong. So you got to go, I got to go take care of that. And it's not because you're doing it for anyone else. It's because it matters to your character, your ability, and it doesn't just affect you. When someone else goes into your room and they see the clean room, it says something about you. It says something about what you're made of when you do little things like this. So back to that being in the middle, the number one reason people go, even let's say you could take it to extreme, whether it's drug abuse or some kind of a food abuse or whatever. You get bored and you want something to resatisfy you, but you've never built the courage to deal with the normalcy, the simplicity, the boring, the long hours, that constant that needs to be a part of our life. You start winning there, you win in every other area. And all of a sudden you discover your value doesn't become the shot of energy. You actually get more shots of energy as you go, right? Because you realize you could do more things. So I think that's a really important, that consistency in what you just said in that thought.
And I guess kind of go back a little bit. I don't mean to say boring in terms of like you're bored, but it's repetitive over and over. And it takes a mental resilience, I think, is kind of what you were saying there,
Boring.
Brian.
It's boring.
Well, I'm gonna, I guess, challenge a little bit. It is boring, but being bored can also produce things that try and stimulate you. Like I think of like pornography use. Like, man, if your life is boring, pornography is suddenly awesome because you get that hit whenever you want, instant. But boring in terms of like I'm gonna run a mile a day, like that's consistency, and it's boring, but you're pursuing something. It's in the pursuit of something greater, right? It's I think exactly like what Mark was talking about last week of like it's exciting in the beginning, it's exciting in the end, but it's the middle that makes all the difference. Like it's exciting to say, "Hey guys, I'm going to run a Tough Mudder 15K." Like, "Oh yeah, everyone just got jazzed up, we're all fired up, everyone's committed. Now what are you doing tomorrow morning?" Like, what are you doing? And then it's also easy to look at the end when I'm posting on Instagram. Oh yeah, I finished a Tough Mudder and oh, I ran 15K and did 20 obstacles, and like that's great, but no one saw what I did in the middle. No one saw the last 3 months of running, lifting, not eating McDonald's every day, not like jacking up my mind with all these other stimulants or pornography or what. It's like those are the daily disciplines that produce, that are like long term, that actually give you some sort of reward.
It's interesting because I feel like I had an opportunity to look into the middle recently. And it was Sunday morning when I texted Tommy and I said, "You excited for run and plunge?" And he said, "I woke up and this was not what I wanted to do when I woke up," was his text back to me. And I was so excited because it's like, that's who I want to watch, is somebody who doesn't want to do something and they go do it. And like it got me so hyped, like seeing Tommy running on Mark's Instagram story. I didn't care that it was on the Instagram story. It was just seeing his energy there and stuff. And it was like that moment in the middle. The middle is like when you wake up in the morning, because I think we all deal with that. You wake up in the morning and you're like, "Oh my goodness, my bed is so warm and comfy. I don't want to go run and plunge. I don't want to go for a run outside. It's slightly chilly. There's a slight nice breeze outside. It's perfect weather, but it's just not as quite as nice as the bed." So I think it's like that's what's impressive, is watching somebody when they don't want to go do something, go and do it. Like Mark running Arrowhead 135. Does he want to go? Does he want to go to win? Yes, but do you see him? I saw him in the middle. It looked rough. If I was him, I would not like, you in the moment, your head's going to tell you, I don't want to be here right now. Like you were saying, Tommy, on your run back, you're like, all the thoughts start coming in. And I think just from like stories like my aunt and uncle went mountaineering one time and they were both in the military, super tough, and they got to a high elevation where it's extremely dangerous, extremely cold, and they both sat down to take a nap and take a little rest. That's how you die mountaineering, because you go to sleep because you don't want to be there right now, and you're like, I'll just rest for a minute. That's when people start experiencing hypothermia. That is the time that their body tells them it's time to sleep, like it's time to just go to rest. So I even think, like, when it comes to this stuff, like the middle and doing what you don't want to do, that is what's going to keep you alive, like in these bigger goals and everything. And I think it's so important because it's even in the small stuff. Like I'm like Tommy running, going, doing the run and plunge. Like this is a dramatic way to say it, but that I'm like, that's life. That is keeping him alive, of like this challenge of, I don't want to do this. Him doing the Spartan Tough Mudder race. It's like, he wants to go do it, but do you really want to go do it when it comes down to like the daily grind of doing it? I don't think so. I mean, maybe some days yes, some days no. And it is that grind in the middle that keeps you alive. Like if my aunt and uncle, one of them fell asleep, and my uncle had to shake my aunt awake because he also fell asleep, and he woke back up just in time to be like, okay, we're actually going to die up here because it's high elevation, lack of oxygen. And like that's throughout history. If Shackleton had decided in the middle, like to be like, okay, we're just going to wait it out, like it's really tough, that is how you die every time in the middle, kind of giving into the what you want to do. And I think that goes for everything in life, because it will add up. So getting to like watch Tommy be in the middle and have the discipline, and like getting the text from like, this is not what I woke up wanting to do, that is like life. Like because it's like he's going to do it, and it's so cool to watch. So I think that's like really big for being in the middle, is keeping going on even when you don't want to. That will keep you alive, like your spirit alive, your body alive, your mind alive, because it's like what we've been talking about, like building this evidence for yourself that you can keep going. And I think that's just huge. Like that's an inspiration to watch other people do it. And then two, you got to watch yourself do it, because then what can you go on and keep going through and keep doing?
I like how that you kind of just in just a small arena of life, how that encouraged you, Caleb, watching Tommy get up and go do it anyway. It does, it
Mm-hmm.
inspires. I wanted to kind of add into this picture of courage, like you kind of hit this end place. So it's not even just so much enduring, and I agree, it's boredom when we've been trained that way. It's
Mm.
life, it's winning, it's process when you start enjoying the journey. So it doesn't feel like boredom. You actually can start delighting in a rhythm takes place that you can start thinking about other things. It actually produces an amazing result. But we've been trained of the speed, quick, everything like that. I want to kind of comment on, I think it's interesting when you hit these moments, you have decisions you have to make in them. And the better you are at making that decision in hard times, man, just think about how good you are at making decisions anytime, whether it's Shackleton, whether it's, your wife encouraging you can't quit now, you got to keep moving. All these places of decision, that decision is your fork in the road. Like even Jesus coming to in the Garden of Gethsemane, before he even launched into ministry, 40 days, 40 nights without eating. So coming to an absolute end of yourself before the decisions that will affect your life come to pass. Like he's not really affected with decisions until he comes to the end of himself. Now he has decisions that he's going to make. And those decisions altered our life. Those decisions that he made in the garden. And granted, you going for a run is not changing or altering decision. But I will tell you, if you've never trained yourself to make a decision in a hard place, you won't make a decision in a real hard place, because you have you'll go by feelings and how it feels. And I will tell you, it is so much better in life to make a decision and make your feelings align to it than to wait for the feeling to make the decision. Those are always wrong, because your feelings lie. They are the biggest
Yeah.
liars you will ever, ever, ever have, is your feelings. They are great when you make them bow to your direction. Then it's great to have feelings, but they are liars. So learning to deal with that. I was thinking just I've had to work with hundreds of young people and men that grew up always appeasing something. So one thing about courage is you're not appeasing. Like Tommy, when you're running, the crowd was no longer there to help you make that decision. You had to stand on your own to make that decision. And you could have walked. You could have gotten Uber and you could keep running. No one really in that group is going to care. They're just trying to get home themselves, right? They're not going to care. But something in you is doing that. So many people have grown up where they've ditched the responsibility of life, whether on their pastor or a leader or a coach, that hey, the coach told me to do it, oh, the pastor told me to do it, oh, this leader told me to do it. But they've never owned the responsibility of those decisions. So when things get hard, they have someone to blame. But when you really want courage, you take ownership of your decision in that moment. And that's where the power starts taking place. That's when something comes alive in you, that you get to own this moment. And it's not because Tommy got ditched by the other people and they were being mean to him because they weren't thinking about Tommy, because Tommy wasn't the center of the world on the run back, right? He wasn't victim Tommy. You just own it. So life is like that. People leave you. People go do their own thing, and not because they're even thinking about you. It's just they're thinking about themselves. And so you being courageous by owning your moments when it's mundane, when it doesn't feel, and you go, is so big. That's why we do the habits. It's why we do talk about sports or fitness or soldiering or everything. It's all about dealing with that, because that's the number one essence of every solid Christian man, of masculine men, is the courage to do hard things and endure. And if you can master enduring, which is mentally boring at times, all that, you become the man that can make these decisions. And so that's what we're looking for.
Yeah, I Caleb, I just waking up that morning and getting that text from you made me so angry because I I I could have chosen not to go and I could have fully excused my way out of it, but I had gotten up. And I get the text and I'm like, "Oh man, this is just." And it's still like even after that like okay, I got the feeling I need to go. But then you still have to make those, it's like every micro decision changes that final point of like okay, I made it back in the race, right? I'm at the end, I reached the goal, but it's like it was 10,000 decisions that got me that goal. It's like I stopped running, okay, I have to decide to start running again, and then I decided not to. I just decided to stop running again, and I'm walking. I have to decide again, I need to run. And it's like this constant decision. And I think that is where the middle is because it's so difficult when you're already feeling defeated, when you've already made all these decisions, to keep deciding, take that next step. And I think running is just like a perfect example of it because it's so physical and it's just so immediate. Like it's a decision right there, but it applies to so many other things. And I've seen it in my own life is like, man, just deciding to run and own that in the morning, it's like it makes decisions throughout the day that much easier because I know I've already decided to not let my body rule over myself. Like I've woken up early and I've told my body what to do. So I have now the confidence to keep that rolling into other things. And I think that's the portion where it's like you need to build this courage consistently, and it needs to start with the small things. It can't be like you're not going to make this courageous decision, like a big courageous decision just by doing it, well, I guess maybe you could. Maybe you could make a huge courageous decision just off of it, but I believe courageous decisions are the small decisions compounded over time. Like the each step. Like Caleb, I imagine Caleb like just doing this run and plunge. I imagine like doing the Appalachian Trail, man. You had to make so many decisions every day to keep going when you could have given up. I mean, you were 6 months of making a decision every morning to get up and walk. Like you put your body into like my mind is the master over my body. And I can see that translate now into so many other things, but I think as men, you should find something that you can courageously do over and over again to consistently prove to yourself that you are capable, and so that when big decisions come up, it's almost like it's like going back to pornography. Like, man, if you watch pornography every day and you make those decisions, and now I travel for work, it's like it would be so easy then to make that next decision of like, oh, everyone's going to the strip club. Oh yeah, I mean, it's like all of a sudden that decision is like, yeah, I'm gonna go. But if I've constantly every day say no to pornography or no to that lust, making the decision not to go to the strip club is like incredibly easy. It's like, no, that's not who I am. You've already built that over time.
I think it's really interesting you brought up the Appalachian Trail thing because I was like, I've never thought of this before, or I've never said this before. So this is incredibly embarrassing. So nobody hold it against me. But there were a couple times, and it was this decision every time, right? I would get off the trail. It would be like been a week since I had a shower and hot food or like a burger from a restaurant. And there was a couple times where I would wake up and I would be so physically nauseous about getting back on the trail because I didn't want to, that I would tell myself, I am literally physically sick and I need one more day in this air conditioned hotel. I just want one more day of not sweating. And there was a couple times where I did that, where it was like one more day in the hotel, one more day to just lay there doing nothing, put on whatever's on the TV in the background and just like lay under the air conditioning because it's 110 degrees outside. And so even in that, like I didn't make the perfect decision every time, but like what you're saying, Tommy, like because I think that's representative of life as well, right? Because I could miss one day and then go, man, I yesterday I just was, and I kid you not, no matter what, for the first half of the trail, when I would get back on the trail after taking a day off, or like I had a wedding with a friend that I was in the wedding, so I went to the wedding, I would literally be physically nauseous getting back onto the trail of like nervousness of can I even do this? Like I'm not going to be able to finish. This is already I'm walking up the first hill and I've been like, "Oh my goodness, like I'm not the person to do this." So even in that, it's like in the middle, there might be times you fail in the middle. Like, cause there was times on the Appalachian Trail where it was like, I'm gonna lie to myself. And like, I even hate to say it, but one time my dad came and picked me up and I didn't tell him, Dad, I just need one more time off the Appalachian Trail. I was like, Dad, my stomach is killing me. I can't go back out there right now. And it was just like, it was not that I was literally sick. It was just that I was so nervous and nauseous over like that was like 3 months in. Like I've been doing it every day for like 3 months and I would still feel that way. But the trail was still there and it still had to be done. Like there was still tomorrow was still a new day. So I better get up early, get my stuff packed, and be ready to go and not take that extra day to be lax, like get daisical and stretch or whatever. And so I think even in life when it comes to this stuff, it's like, okay, I like you were saying, Tommy, like I didn't run there, but I can run now. And even Mark, like you'll see it in the documentary. This is one thing. I mean, you think it's an ultra run where you run the whole time. No, like by the end, you are so dead. He was like walking the last 5 miles. And in the interview, I was like, what was that like? He's like, I would just see a tree and say, if I can at least run to that tree, like I will run to that tree. I'm committed to running to that tree. And I think that is like for life, it's like, man, might not get it perfect every time in the middle of the process. There might be times where you just like are like overwhelmed and you're like, I gotta walk. But it's like, okay, but just to yesterday, oh, I walked. Like Brian, like you were saying, I walked and you're like, oh, the run, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, I know I can so easily get caught on the past of, man, yesterday I took an extra day off to not go back out into the heat in the hotel. I really don't want to today now it's even worse because now I've been like comforted fully. And it's like you cannot let that walk stop you from that next step of running. And I think that's like part of the middle too, because that's the courage to keep going even against your own mistakes that have slowed you down in the middle. Because we all do that. I mean, we all do that in some way or another, whatever it is. Like even at work, it's like, oh, yesterday I didn't quite get done the project that I wanted to, or I didn't do all the work that I wanted to on editing this video. Well, that doesn't mean I should do the same thing today. Today I should be like, all right, well, today's a new day and it's a new opportunity for me to be in the middle and just go for it. So I think it's huge when you're given that analogy of I'm walking. Okay, no, I can still run. I can still run a little bit. Because somebody who's in a 135-mile race, that we would be like, that's impossible. That is the same mentality they have to get through it. That's the same mentality I had to have for 6 months. So it's like, all right, if it doesn't change in that big of stuff, then you might as well be prepared to do it in the little stuff as well, because you will build strength there. And then what will happen when you do have to do the big thing and stay in the middle of that when it's really hard?
I think it's interesting that if we really kind of, as a listener, so we, with our pillars of identity, strength, courage, and influence, our ability to handle the middle really isn't an attack on our comfort. Our comfort's the mask, how we're feeling. But really, if you get down to the heart of it, it's an attack on who you are. Because those voices are really saying, you are not capable. You are not fit for this. So you can, when you know you're something, you can kind of override your body. You can override different areas of your life. And if we understand what the mental war is really over, it will help. And to bring back to the garden from Matthew's account of Jesus in the garden when he's taken up 40 days, 40 nights. So he's at the place of absolute physical drainage, right? And here comes the voices. And if you listen to the first two temptations, if you really are the Son of God, do this. It's this attack on his identity to prove he's capable, or to say, see, if you really were that, you would do this. If you really were a runner, or you really were a salesman, or you really were, name the thing you're trying to, you wouldn't be in this mess. You wouldn't be feeling this way. So those voices, I don't even believe originate from you. Now, I think we adopt them over time and they're a part of us, like, because we've absorbed them so long, we've been conditioned. But when you start breaking barriers, really, you're also breaking out of a false self and coming into the real self that you really are. And Jesus had to deal with this. And when his self at the very last temptation, the first temptation is to eat, you could do this miracle, turn the stone into bread if you're the Son of God. Thou shalt not tempt the Lord, or man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds out of the mouth of God. And the second temptation, hey, why don't you jump down? He'll if you are the Son of God, his angels will take care of you. They'll care for you. And he said, thou shalt not tempt the Lord thy God. And I think when we read this story, we're thinking that Jesus is just sitting there chatting with the devil. Like the devil pulls up a rock and sits down next to him and says, Jesus. It's not really what's going on. It's the same war we have. I don't think he knows this voice. Like he's not sure. He's learning these voices. It's a voice that comes, a temptation comes. If you knew the devil was the one showing up, it would kind of put like a little bit of, we should probably check this conversation, right? this belief that you're saying it to yourself, and it's challenging your identity, and you're drawing on something. So the courage, because this is why we talk about meditation. But the final one, Satan goes, hey, jump off if you bow and worship me, I'll give you all the kingdoms. And immediately Jesus says, get behind me, Satan. Like, now he's rebuking him. What's he doing? Is he's standing in his identity against those voices. And we practice this. I'm not saying every voice that comes is from the devil. Sometimes it's just conditioning of thoughts we've absorbed from our family members. But if it's stripping your identity, it is being utilized to strip who you are. And in these moments of the mundane, when we're at the absolute crucible of truth, at the most exhausted natural place, if we listen, we start being told who we really are. That's what causes us to rise up in courage. And if you listen to God as a father, he is speaking, this is who you are. This is who you are. That's why it says in Romans 8 that the sufferings of this present time are not worthy to be compared with the glory that shall be revealed in us. In other words, that suffering, that feeling you are right now, isn't even worthy. Think about that. It's not even worthy to be compared what's being revealed in you, what's coming out of who you really are. This suffering doesn't even have the weight of comparison to what you actually are. And this is true in little things, big things, and eternal things. It's the same process all the way through. So I just want to encourage you too, is like when you're hearing that voice of quitting, even if it's on a run, if it's an exercise plan, maybe it's a weight loss journey, or it's just overcoming or just trying to add something new to your life and you're feeling those voices, that's not how God the Father speaks to you. He calls out your identity. He starts revealing your strength. Now, you need to grow in strength. You may not have the full capacity, but he's not saying you can't. He's saying you can, and you keep moving forward, and you keep moving forward, and pretty soon, in those moments, you start discovering who you really are. Now the world changes, right? Now, when we see Jesus leaving, now the world changes. So those moments, why we talk about meditation too, just like a run, you have to determine your thoughts every single day, every single moment when you're walking through the day going, oh, I feel so tired. Why am I saying all that? Who am I saying that to? What excuse am I trying to come up with? Just either go lay down or be quiet. Like don't let it become a rustle that everyone else starts feeling the negative effects. You got to choose. And we can cast those things down by having a different choice of thoughts, which is really where you're talking about in all these events. And it comes from who you really are. That's why in the middle, you become revealed. You become known. It becomes truthful. You become the lie that you followed dies off for the real person to actually arise.
That's so good. That's so true. I think it's the weight of all those lies that you carry and making the decision to let go of them and take on the new identity in those decisions in the middle of the fight. And in the middle, it's the easiest to quit. And we live in a world full of quitters. People quit every day. They quit good things that they should be continuing. And it's easy to quit in the middle because that's when it's hard. And that's when people understand and you can justify quitting. But I think the amazing thing about like ultra marathons and these extreme tasks is like they're just not quitting. Doesn't matter if you're running at a 6 mile pace. It's are you going to quit or not? And I think that's a big portion I picked up over this last weekend is it's not whether or not I'm gonna quit, it's am I gonna finish? Doesn't matter how. Am I going to finish? Am I a finisher? Am I gonna finish what I said I was going to do? Run, walk, crawl, dragged, am I going to finish what I started? And that's something that I think if you can become a finisher of things, you're going to go so far. Just in a materialistic sense, you are going to go way further than you've ever thought possible if you can just finish something. Because people don't finish, people quit all the time. And I think it's something I was watching Cameron Haynes, a documentary, and I'm also reading this book. And I think his whole concept about it being like undeniable is just, it's so amazing. And I think it fits in so well with this. It's just, he says, undeniable people are consistent with how hard they work and the effort they give when performing. Now, it may look different. Mile 1 is going to look way different than a mile 136, but you're still giving that same effort. You're still working incredibly hard. You may be going at a much slower pace, but you're finishing. I think of like writing a book. Like I've, and here I am, I'm saying it right now. I have this idea of this book. I got it down and I can't wait for the glorious end. But the writing, the actual writing, the middle, the I actually have to do this. Like I have to put chapters together. I actually have to put words together to make sentences. Like that is the hard part. And it's easy to just quit because like I can just quit. People, there's so many unwritten books in the world. You just quit. But if you just finish, you never know what's going to come out of that. And it could be just for yourself. It might not be for other people. It could be for just you. But it can also be for other people. Like I see Caleb, like you're doing things, Brian, you're doing things, and you're finishing them, and it inspires other people to keep going after what they're going after. And so I guess I just want to wrap up with saying if anything's going to change, just start finishing things. Like just make a decision to stop starting and just finish the things that are actually in front of you. And then go after more. Then decide what's next. But finish what's right in front of you.
I think that is literally the exact same thought I had. Because when Brian was saying like all these amazing things that I'm like, man, if I could have heard what Brian just said in the middle of the Appalachian Trail, that would have helped so much. And then I was like, well, actually, I probably just wouldn't have listened to Brian at all because I would have been so stuck up and been like, well, Brian, that's nice and all, but you don't know how much pain my feet are in right now, Brian. You don't know how much I'm sweating and how I have to wring out my shirt of sweat and stink. And I think like the knowledge that Brian is giving of that's not your voice in there, like the lies that you're allowing to be told about yourself, that coupled with the just don't quit, like that's the key right there, because you're not going to find out that they're actually lies. If you're like, well, I think it's a lie, blah, blah, blah. So, but I'm not going to keep pushing through. Cause then the lie is true then. Cause you gave into the lie. That's what giving up is. It's giving into the lie. And so, Tommy, I was going to say the exact same thing, or it was on my mind because I was like, really what somebody had to tell me was when I called my dad telling him I want to quit. And he was like, well, you're pretty far in and you're going to have to walk home if you want to quit. So you might as well just keep walking. Like you just can't quit. And I think that coupled with like knowing how to go after the truth, like what Brian was talking about, that's the key, because you have to really, like Jesus in the wilderness, like if he had been like, well, that's not true, but I'm just going to, even if Jesus had been like, well, that's not true, but then I'm still going to leave the wilderness like 2 days early because like, this is just, I'm not going to deal with this anymore. Like then it would have been some form of giving into the lie that the enemy was telling him. And I think like even thinking about Mark, like when he called his wife, telling her wanting to quit, she wasn't like giving him like this really good answer of like, Mark, no, you're more than that, blah, blah, blah. She was like, no, you can't. I'm not picking you up, blah, blah, blah. We're already up here. Like, so I think you can't find that out. You can't find that truth. Like you can know it. Like I know what Brian's saying, but to test that and find it out, I think that's why Mark says he loves to live in the middle, because then you find the truth of that. Like you cannot experience it until it is physically or mentally or spiritually like assaulting you at full force, where you have to go, I have to fight through this and just not quit. Even like, I don't want to, we're quoting Mark for this whole thing, but one of the things he said on his social media was, he was like, for these endurance races, it's just don't quit. And he was into the end of one of his big race actually this past year that got him a spot on Team USA. And he told me there was a girl there who had written on Sharpie on her arm, just don't quit, because she had seen his social media video. And she was the one who pushed him the furthest out of everybody, because you keep going until you're the last one. And she was the other one. And she didn't even know it was him until they like talked on one loop running through. And she's like, wait, are you from social media, Instagram? And you said, just don't quit. And I think that's like, man, if you are like in the middle of it and you're like, well, Brian, that all sounds nice, but you do not know, Brian, how painful it is. Well, Brian's been through it, so he does actually. But at the same time, you can hear us talk about all this, and it will not mean anything until you really just don't quit and stick in the middle and keep going, because you can't, like, there is something about knowing about it. And I think we're going to get into that more, knowing about it versus knowing the truth of it, and not just having knowledge of it, but knowing it like intimately. And that's in the middle. That's where you'll get the truth. When you don't quit, you will understand it because you have been through it. Like, there's a relationship you have to gain with the truth, and that is only going to be received when you don't quit. Like, Jesus received the relationship with the truth because he didn't quit. And look at what happened, what the effect of his life was. Even Tommy, running this weekend with the Run and Pledge, he just didn't quit no matter what the lies were. And that had a huge impact on me, like huge impact, just from texting Tommy. And I was like, I can see that mental state. I understand that mental state. And he just didn't quit. So I think that is like the big thing. I'm so glad you said it, Tommy, because it is like, you can know it, but you don't really know it until you test it and have that relationship with the truth. So
I think another key to this too is being around other people that don't allow you to quit. Like,
mm,
I think of like your dad, Caleb. Like, he's like, no, you're already this far. Like, you can't give up now. Like, I imagine Brian, when you moved around the world into Thailand, like, I'm sure there was points where it's like, I just want to quit and give up. And you had to have had community around you that's like, you can't quit. You've already started the mission. You gotta finish it. You gotta keep going. Because that's what I had too. I had friends with me on the run, and when I was ready to quit, they're just like, "You can't stop now. Just keep running." And it's like, okay, yeah. I had the same thing with my boss. Like, there's a point where I wanted to quit, and he's like, "You said you weren't going to quit," and it's like, okay, like I just got to keep going. And sometimes you just need that wake up call. And I think it's community and surrounding yourself with people who don't quit as well. Like, surrounding yourself with people who are pursuing at a high level is important, and being around that community so that you can, when you're in that low moment, you can be brought out of it. But I think the other key part of it is you're doing this for other people so that they don't quit. Because there's a lot of people that'll make excuses on their own life because you quit something. That's why you're doing this. Because there's people coming behind you that if you quit, it gives them a reason to give up.
That is
I
so
that's
true.
why that's why I did text you that morning, because I really believe in Tommy. And I was like, I kind of just want to find out. Like, and I knew you would, but you never know. Like, knowing myself, I make excuses. Like, I was like, to be honest, I was like, I know I would so badly not want to do that, even though I wouldn't want to like fail everybody else around me, that I would be like, yeah, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. And then kind of like fizzle back on it. So, like, the impression it's left on me is like, it's like being a man of your word and still not quitting and all this stuff. It's like Tommy backed up everything about his life in one weekend. And he does that daily, but it was just like a way that I was like, I'm kind of watching, because I like, there's people you look up to and you're like, you hope that they are who they say they are. And that's like,
Mm.
we see that every day, and people see it with Brian and Jason too, and what they're doing in their lives. And it's it's also helpful to have somebody you look up to who doesn't quit on stuff as well. Because
Well, to bring this all to a complete wrap up, I will say in the moment you won't feel like anybody's behind you, and that you do have to still be able to do this when no one's watching and when no one's cheering you on. And I do believe there's amazing moments where someone does come and help cheer you on, but there will be moments no one, or it will feel like no one's cheering you on. But sometimes they don't understand when you come out the other side. They're so happy you came out the other side, but they may not understand. So you still have to have a resolve in you regardless. And part of this is that whole building. That's why we do this. You create habits. We do this to build this infrastructure for the events of your life. And I'm just going to add too is that do remember the outcome. Jesus did turn water into wine. Jesus did face different things where he just passed through the crowd when they wanted to kill him. Jesus did take all the kingdom back. And Jesus had to hold himself to let them actually crucify him. So he became empowered over the future of his life. He didn't become a victim of it. And so I just want you guys to be encouraged that, hey, there is an outcome and there is a reward and there is a hope and there is an end and there is a victory. But these little in-between moments are great. So with that said, do something courageous today. Shut down a thought, do something hard, and when it becomes monotonous, go forward anyway. Until the next time, keep the faith and stay in the fight.